March 2022, Eastern Europe. Russian Su-35 fighters probing NATO airspace, testing defenses, seeing how fast NATO responds. They got their answer in minutes. British Royal Air Force Eurofighter Typhoons intercepted them. Not just intercepted, dominated. Russian pilots locked their radars. British pilots locked back. Superior radar, longer range, better weapons. The Russians turned away without engaging. This wasn't an isolated incident. It happens regularly. Russian fighters approach NATO airspace. Typhoons scramble. Russians retreat. Because the Eurofighter Typhoon is the most capable air superiority fighter operating over Europe, and Britain operates the most advanced version. This is why the UK owns the skies over Europe. The Eurofighter Typhoon isn't just one nation's aircraft. It's a European collaboration. Britain, Germany, Italy, Spain. Joint development started in the 1980s. First flight, 1994. Entered service, 2003. But Britain's Typhoons are different. More capable, more advanced. The UK invested heavily in upgrades other partners didn't fund. The numbers are impressive. Maximum speed, Mach 2. That's over 1,500 miles per hour. Combat radius, 863 miles. Service ceiling, 65,000 feet. Twin Eurojet EJ, 200 engines. 20,000 pounds of thrust each. Super cruise capable, can sustain supersonic speed without afterburners. Only advanced fighters can do this. Armed with beyond visual range missiles. Meteor ramjet-powered air-to-air missiles. Range, over 100 miles. No escape zone, 60 miles. Once fired within that range, enemy aircraft cannot outrun or outmaneuver it. Short-range combat. Osram infrared missiles. Iris-T missiles on some variants. Mauser BK. 27mm cannon with 150 rounds. But weapons aren't what make British Typhoons dominant. It's the radar, the sensors, the electronic warfare systems. Britain equipped their Typhoons with Captor-E AESA radar, active electronically scanned array, most advanced radar in European service, tracks over 200 targets simultaneously, engage 24 at once. Detection range exceeding 150 miles for fighter-sized targets. Russian Su-35 fighters, detected at maximum range, tracked continuously, never escape British radar coverage. While Germany, Italy, and Spain operate Typhoons, Britain's are the most capable. Why? Investment. The Royal Air Force funded continuous upgrade programs. Project Centurion, capability enhancement packages, advanced weapons integration, software updates, sensor improvements. Germany's Typhoons? Many lack full operational capability. Budget constraints, delayed upgrades. Some German Typhoons can't even fire Meteor missiles yet, limited by older software and hardware. British Typhoons received every upgrade, every enhancement, every capability improvement. RAF prioritized air superiority, made Typhoon the centerpiece of British air defense strategy. The Captor-E radar on British Typhoons is ahead of radars on other European variants. Better range, better resolution, better electronic countermeasures. Can operate in heavily jammed environments where older radars fail. British Typhoons also received Advanced Defensive Aids Subsystem, DASS, Electronic Warfare Suite detecting and countering enemy radar and missiles, radar warning receivers, missile approach warning, chaff and flare dispensers, active jamming capability. When Russian fighters lock radar on British Typhoons, DASS immediately detects it, identifies the threat, calculates optimal countermeasures, can jam Russian radar, spoof missiles with electronic decoys, give British pilots decisive advantage in any engagement. Integration with British intelligence networks gives additional edge. RAF Typhoons receive real-time intelligence from AWACS aircraft, ground-based radar, satellites, other NATO assets. British pilots see a complete tactical picture. Russians operate partially blind in comparison. NATO's Baltic air policing mission demonstrates British Typhoon dominance clearly. Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania don't operate fighter aircraft. Too expensive, too small. So, NATO allies rotate responsibility for defending Baltic airspace. Britain regularly deploys Typhoons to Aimery Air Base in Estonia and Šiauliai Air Base in Lithuania, defending Baltic airspace against Russian incursions. Russian aircraft test NATO defenses constantly. Strategic bombers, fighters, reconnaissance aircraft, sometimes multiple times per day, flying toward NATO airspace, seeing how fast NATO responds. British Typhoons respond in minutes. Scramble alert crews on 15-minute standby, from alarm to airborne, under 10 minutes. Intercept Russian aircraft before they reach NATO airspace. The procedure is routine. Russian aircraft approach. NATO radar detects them. Typhoons scramble. Intercept at international airspace boundary. Visual identification. Escort Russian aircraft away from NATO territory. But the encounters reveal a capability gap. Russian pilots know British Typhoons outclass them. Superior radar means British pilots see Russians first. Track them continuously. Could engage beyond visual range if authorized. Russian Su-27 and Su-35 pilots, flying 1980s and 1990s, technology upgraded with modern systems. British pilots flying 21st century technology, designed from the start for network-centric warfare. The psychological impact matters. Russian pilots know they're outmatched. That affects decision-making. Make them cautious. Less aggressive. They turn away earlier. Avoid confrontation. British Typhoons establish air dominance without firing weapons, just presence and capability demonstration. The Meteor missile gives British Typhoons a decisive advantage over any potential adversary in the European theater. Traditional air-to-air missiles use rocket motors, burn fuel quickly, then coast unpowered toward target. The longer the shot, the slower the missile at intercept, easier for enemy aircraft to evade. Meteor uses a ramjet engine, sustains powered flight throughout engagement, maintains high speed all the way to target. No escape zone extends to 60 miles. At that range, enemy aircraft cannot outrun or outmaneuver Meteor. Russian fighters carry R-77 missiles, maximum range 50 miles, no escape zone, maybe 20 miles. British Typhoons can engage Russian fighters 40 miles before Russians can shoot back. Overwhelming advantage. Even if Russian pilots fire first, it is unlikely, given radar disadvantage. Meteor's sustained speed gives it better probability of kill. Russian missiles slow down. Meteor maintains velocity, pursues aggressively, adjusts course continuously using active radar seeker. British Typhoons also carry more missiles than Russian fighters. Standard loadout: 6 METE or beyond visual range missiles, 2 ASRAAM short-range missiles, 8 missiles total in air-to-air configuration. Russian Su-35 carries 6 R-77 missiles maximum in pure air-to-air loadout. Fewer missiles, shorter range, lower probability of kill. In any engagement, British Typhoons fire first, fire more missiles with better weapons. The math is brutal for Russian pilots. British Typhoons don't fight alone. They fight as nodes in the network. RAF integrated Typhoons into comprehensive air defense architecture. Link 16 tactical data link connects Typhoons to AWACS, ground radar, other fighters, surface-to-air missiles, Royal Navy ships. Creates complete battlespace awareness. British pilots see every radar track from every sensor in the network, fused into a single tactical display. Shows friendly forces, enemy forces, threats, opportunities. Russian pilots see what their own radar shows. Maybe data links to ground control. Limited picture, incomplete information. This network advantage is decisive. British pilots make better decisions faster. coordinate tactics with other aircraft seamlessly, avoid threats, exploit enemy vulnerabilities. Example: Russian fighters approaching from multiple directions, attempting to split British defenders, force them to engage separately. British Typhoon pilots see the complete picture, coordinate response through data link, position aircraft optimally, engage Russian fighters sequentially, use geometry and superior weapons range to defeat superior numbers. Russians lack this coordination capability. Their aircraft communicate through voice radio. Slower, less precise. No shared tactical display. Pilots make decisions based on incomplete information. Technology gap creates capability gap. Even equal numbers favor British Typhoons. Unequal numbers still favors Typhoons if they use the network effectively. The proof isn't theoretical. It's operational. British Typhoons have intercepted Russian aircraft hundreds of times. Baltic states, North Sea, Iceland, anywhere Russian aircraft test NATO defenses. Every encounter demonstrates British superiority. Typhoons detect Russians first, close to intercept position before Russians realize they're being tracked. Establish radar lock. Force Russians to acknowledge British presence. Russian pilots never engage. They know the odds. Turn away. Return to Russian airspace. Mission incomplete. This operational track record establishes psychological dominance. Russian pilots know British Typhoons are superior. That knowledge affects behavior, makes them predictable, easier to counter. Compare this to encounters with less capable aircraft. Russian pilots are more aggressive toward older fighters, test their limits, push boundaries, create incidents. Against British Typhoons, cautious, respectful, quick to disengage. That's not fear of British pilots specifically, it's recognition of technological superiority. Russian aircraft and weapons can't match Typhoon capabilities. Engaging means losing. Losing means dying or capture. Better to avoid confrontation, retreat, claim successful reconnaissance mission. British Typhoons achieve strategic objectives without combat, defend NATO airspace, deter Russian aggression, establish air superiority. Mission accomplished. British Typhoon dominance over European skies isn't just military achievement, it's a strategic necessity. Europe faces potential Russian aggression. Ukraine demonstrated Russian willingness to use military force against neighbors. NATO must deter similar aggression against member states. Air superiority is the foundation of deterrence. If Russia knows NATO controls the skies, ground invasion becomes nearly impossible. NATO aircraft destroy Russian ground forces, strike supply lines, eliminate command centers. British Typhoons are a critical component of this deterrence. Among the most capable air superiority fighters NATO operates, more advanced than most US fighters deployed in Europe, on par with F-22 Raptor in many capabilities. This capability reassures NATO allies. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland nations bordering Russia know British Typhoons defend their airspace. That security enables political stability, economic development, confidence in NATO collective defense. Without credible air defense, these nations would feel vulnerable, exposed to Russian coercion, potentially forced into compromises, undermining NATO cohesion. British Typhoons prevent this. Establish clear red lines. Russian aircraft don't violate NATO airspace, because British fighters will respond, and Russian pilots know they can't win that confrontation. This is deterrence through capability demonstration. Britain doesn't need to shoot down Russian aircraft, just needs to prove it can. That proof changes Russian calculations. Britain owns the skies over Europe through investment, capability, and operational excellence. The Eurofighter Typhoon is a joint European program, but British variants are more advanced. Best radar, best weapons, best electronic warfare systems, continuous upgrades, maintaining technological edge. British pilots train constantly, intercept Russian aircraft regularly, develop tactics, refine procedures, maintain readiness. The result is clear. When Russian fighters probe NATO airspace, British Typhoons respond, establish air superiority, force Russian retreat. This happens hundreds of times annually. Every encounter reinforces the same lesson. British Typhoons are superior. Russian aircraft can't compete. Engagement means defeat. That's why the UK owns the skies over Europe. Not through numbers, through quality, technology, training, investment. And the Russians know it. If you want more stories about cutting-edge military aircraft, air superiority operations, and how technology determines air combat outcomes, hit that subscribe button for Battlescope. Don't forget to smash that like button and share this video with anyone interested in fighter aircraft and European defense. Drop a comment below. How does the Eurofighter Typhoon compare to the F-35? Which would you rather fly? Thanks for watching. Stay sharp, stay informed. And remember, air superiority isn't about the plane. It's about the pilot, the training, and the technology working together.